Okay guys, Prismatic Warlock can generate so many Threadlings, it's unbelievable, and that is why this has got to be the best setup I've ever used for generating these Threadlings in the game. It's insane, the uptime that you have, being able to put them all out, from your weapons to your class ability to your grenade. There's so many things that you can do here to generate Threadlings and also have buffs up in time. And the good part is there's a lot of options that you can go with. So we're going to jump into the subclass, the mods, and all that jazz, and talk about my Infinite Threadlings Warlock build. So let's take a look at the Prismatic Warlock subclass screen. I usually put all the fragments and stuff on the top left of the screen during my videos quite recently, but I wanted to make sure that I go through some of the options that you have available in this build. The first thing to note that both Weaver's Call and Hellion give you 6 fragments total. If you decide to go with a different aspect setup, you only get 5. And the only other reason I would recommend this is because Hellion and Weaver's Call have great synergy because they both use your class ability. Weaver's Call allows you to generate Threadlings when you use your class ability. And also when you defeat targets with Strand, you have a chance to create a perched Threadling. This is going to be the key thing to the build. I think this is mandatory, obviously, for the Threadling build. Likewise with a Threadling grenade. So those two are kind of the lock here. For everything else, Incinerator Snap, I've decided to go with this. You could go with something else, but I've just gone with this because it does quite a lot of damage. And I also go with Phoenix Dive because it gives you that cure and it means you can do things on the fly. Now, for the other aspect, Hellion allows you to spawn the Solar Mortar, which is fantastic. Gives you more Scorch, makes them ignite, explode, all that good stuff. But you can run Feed the Void. Now, Feed the Void gives you more grenade energy and also gives your health a big boost of regen whenever you have it active and you get another kill. This is great, but I am running a weapon that allows me to get Devour, so it means I can have an extra aspect with Hellion. Entirely up to you what you want to run here, but it's a like optional thing. None of them are like better than the other. It's entirely up to you. Now the same goes for the super. I am running Song of Flame here because of the really cool thing that you can do with Song of Flame, which I'll show you in just a moment. You can also go with Needle Storm for extra damage output if you really need to. Now there's 5 fragments I would say that are kind of necessary, and 1 that you can kind of swap out. The necessary ones are going to be Facet of Purpose. This is going to give us restoration because we are using a solar super. We're going to be able to pick up an orb of power, get ourselves restoration at all times. We also have Facet of Protection. We're going to be surrounded quite a lot when we're using this build, so using this makes us more resistant to damage. We also have Facet of Balance, which gives us both our melee and grenade back when we do light and darkness damage on either side. So darkness gives our grenade and light gives us back our melee. Facet of Hope is going to be another key one because while we have an elemental buff, your class ability regenerates more quickly. So you want those. Now, if you're running a strand weapon, which I highly recommend you do in this build, you are going to be able to get unraveling rounds when you get a melee final blow. A powered melee final blow with Incinerator Snap gives you unraveling rounds. And if you use a grenade, you're going to be able to get volatile rounds for your void weapons. So with the setup I have, we have a couple of options there. The last fragment you can swap out. You have Facet of Solitude. Rapid precision hits emit a severing blast from the target. While transcendent, the severing blast is bigger. Severing a target allows it to turn into a tangle, which is what we need a lot because we're going to be taking advantage of it with our exotic. You can swap it out for Facet of Dawn for just constant uptime on Radiant. You can maybe swap it out for Mending if you want to get yourself a Grenade Final Burst for more Cure. You can swap it out for something else that you really want to, but this is optional. I would drop this if you are going to be using Feed the Void. So if we were to use Feed the Void, you would drop this and just have Facet of Protection here. That's what I'm not doing that in this specific setup of the build, but you can understand the thought process there. Let's go through the exotic and the weapon setup and then the mods. For the exotic of choice, I've gone with regular swarmers. You can go with the Solipsism Bond and get yourself a Spirit of Swarm and something else that really works in tandem. The reason I haven't gone with that here is because of the extra added effect that Swarmers has on your main boots, which is destroying a tangle spawns a Threadling. Great, but your Threadlings unravel targets that they damage. You need to unravel targets to create tangles for you to shoot, to create more Threadlings. You don't get that extra effect when you have it on the exotic class item. You may not want it, but that's what I'm going with the build. I've also paired this with Buried Bloodline. Buried Bloodline is going to be able to make you have a Devour when you get multiple weapon final blows. So this is just an easy use way to get yourself Devour. If you don't have this, that's why I would recommend going with the Feed the Void setup so you have this on lock. But I am really recommending that you go with a weapon that has Hatchling on it in the first slot. I've gone with Breachlight because it's one of my favorite weapons ever. And with Demo and also Hatchling, you're going to be able to get your Hatchling grenade back or your Threadling grenade. And also create Threadlings when you use this. And it's also a strand weapon that we can take advantage of when using one of our artifact mods. For the heavy slot, you could go with a solar weapon or a strand weapon, whatever it is you want to go with to take advantage of our Song of Flame here. I'm just running Semioticon. It's entirely up to you what you want to run here. Something either solar or strand. For the mod setup, we are going to be heavily going into our class ability by using Utility Kickstart. Utility Kickstart, whenever we have armor charges and we consume, we use our class ability, we consume all those armor charges to create more energy for our class ability. So we get it back quicker. We are going to be generating them with Strand Siphon because we'll be using Breachlight. We're also going to be using Firepower to generate more orbs there. We're also going to be stacking up our armor charges even more because we have charged up. Stacks on stacks as well. Picking up more of a power grants you an additional stack of armor charge, so you have 4 total, and then you can get this all the way up. Like 2 orbs will generate this quickly, so you can always have this on hand. And then also elemental charge gives you the escalation chance to be able to make more armor charges. So more armor charge is great. You could even drop one of the resistances if you really wanted to and go for another charged up and have 5 total stacks so you can get your class ability back even quicker. You could go down the grenade route where you also have grenade kickstart. I don't really recommend it purely because it takes away from the utility of the class, a class ability. And that's not what I am feeding into here. We also have Focusing Strike and also Bolstering Detonation because these will feed into our class ability as well. And also Reaper because when we use our class ability, we're able to create another Orb of Power. So we're always creating Orbs of Power at all times with this build. For the artifact, there's a couple of mandatory picks here. Number 1 is going to be Authorized Mod Elemental Charge. This discounts our Elemental Charge down to 1, which is fantastic. Number 2 is Threaded Blast. Destroying a tangle with a strand weapon creates a larger and more damaging explosion. These are huge and they do so much damage to a lot of the red bars and the yellow bars in the game, or like the orange bars, I should say. They destroy them. They're absolutely fantastic. And this is why I'm running Breachlight, because you have mini nukes on hand at all times. Elemental Siphon is also quite good if you're running something that matches. If I was running Needle Storm, my Breachlight would feed into this. So this isn't going to be used as well. This isn't really as mandatory depending on your weapon setup. I do recommend Void Hegemony and Radiant Orbs, purely because these two, if I weaken things with my Buried Bloodline, when I finish the Catalyst, you will get that weaken on it. And also picking up an Orb of Power, we're going to have a 25% damage buff to all our weapons at all times. Galvanic Armor we don't actually use as much here because we haven't got really many arc abilities to make us amplified. None at all, I should say. So this is one that can kind of be swapped out. And I do recommend that you go with Shield Crush because while we are Radiant, we get our grenade back quicker. While we also have an Overshield, we're also generating our melee back quicker as well. Transference is fine. Expanding Abyss is fine. You can swap these out. That's all I can really recommend for the artifact mods that you should be using. So let's jump into a live gameplay demonstration and show you some of the fun things you can do with this build. So here we have the build, and I'm going to showcase like what the loop kind of looks like. You'll start off by using your class ability to generate some Threadlings and the mortars. As you can see, everything's started. We already have a tangle. Boom, that actually does a bunch of damage there. Another Threadling spawned in, and it will kill what we need to kill. In the next part, I'm going to use this Buried Bloodline to get us our grenade. We're going to throw our grenade out. We're going to proc this to get ourselves Devour after we've killed a couple of enemies. You can see I've got Devour active. I don't even need to bring this back out anymore. We're going to snap. Get ourselves a couple more kills. Our Threadlings is going to help us generate there. Another Tangle's going to get exploded. We're going to pop this. And then we've got the class ability back to go again. So you can see how these are just going to keep going forward, doing damage for us. The more orbs of power we generate, we can pick these up again. Throw it out again. Blow up another Tangle. More Threadlings are going to spawn. We can just keep walking. I don't even have to do anything. If I just really wanted to, all of these unravelings are going to happen. And then we've got our class ability back again. And there you go. Sorted. Makes it really, really easy to get stuff. I can shoot this. I can throw out my grenade. I get Demolitionist to proc. You know, it kind of just loops into itself, and it's fantastic. Another really cool thing you could do here is on one of your weapons, you could get yourself, I think it's Strategist, which gives you your class ability back on kills, which is fantastic. We're already Prismatic as well. That stuff is exploding on its own. I don't have to do anything. It's a bit of a fun example in here, but I love showcasing it. We've got our Threadlings again that we can throw out. We've got 5 of them there. Now, I'm going to move over to this portion of the arena. I'm not going to go and do any damage because I'm just going to wait until I get my super back, because I want to show you what you can do with Song of Flame. When you pop it, Song of Flame gives you ability regen, so you can keep popping. You can pop your class ability on repeat, so you can keep spawning out a bunch more Threadlings. There's another bunch, and you can see how many I've just generated there. I have so many Threadlings, it's unbelievable. They can't even perch back on me because I have too many. Now, in a damage situation, a lot of these enemies, these Threadlings are going to get used up, but I can spawn out like almost 15 Threadlings in the space of a Song of Flame super, and use the grenade ability and the snap from Song of Flame as well. I can also get that little burst out if I really wanted to with Needle Storm, but that's the reason why I like using Song of Flame in this, to just continually make them. Look how many Threadlings we have down there. That's 8 that we've just popped out, and then they're all going to come and perch back on me. So that's how the build kind of flows together. The first thing to say about this build in terms of its endgame potential is I don't necessarily think it's going to be that viable in endgame. Depending on how the Threadlings perform against Underlight content, you could get this to work, and you may need to swap the weapon setup a little bit more, maybe go with the more Feed the Void setup for your abilities and such. Once again, it's the same as the turret setup. You're not as active picking up a whole bunch of orbs. It's more you're letting things do damage for you, rather than being very active, kind of like the Lightning Surge build that we did a couple of days ago. So I don't know how this will perform at very, very end game level. I don't necessarily think this is a good raid build or anything like that. I think it's going to be fantastic for general activities like Onslaught, Strikes, even potentially Gambit a little bit as well, to destroy all of the waves, the extra damage from Threadlings and Song of Flame. There's a lot of options here, and I really love this. As someone who loves minion builds, it's perfect, and I can't wait to see if I can wrangle together like a Threadling slash cold, like Bleak Watcher setup, like a dark minion style build. That'll be really interesting to kind of get and make together on the Warlock. But hopefully this video has been helpful and informative, and if you like the build, please leave a like on the video, subscribe if you are new, and turn on the notification bell as always. And this has been It's Jimbo, and I'll see you guys next time.